have a very exciting panel for you this morning. It's called Stronger Together, Building a Blue-Green Alliance to Win. And I realized I was supposed to say who I am. I'm Lisa Hoyos. I'm the California Director for the Blue-Green Alliance. And later I'll be introducing our wonderful panelists. Just wanted to start out by underscoring something that's been said a lot over the last 2 days, which is how much the clean energy and green economy cuts across every aspect of our lives. From the food we eat being sustainable, from energy efficiency, renewables, transportation, green chemistry, green schools, clean energy manufacturing, water sustainability. And I think the Congressman just now underscored so well what we all stand for in terms of creating strong union jobs, good jobs that have career ladders, that have retirement security, and also having, in light of what Yvette said about teachers' jobs being cut, we need to revamp so that we have a strong enough education system to stay on the cutting edge of science and technology. We want our public school kids, not only private school kids, to have that pathway to success, to build the intellectual foundation we need to grow our economy in the direction we want to. We have so many challenges, and as Van Jones has said so many times and so well, we need to invest and invent our way into the future. So how do we get there? In yesterday's afternoon's panel, when Madeline Janis was speaking from Lane, she talked a lot about power, and at the end of the day, we need to design the policies and implement the policies we want to see realized, and we do that 3 ways: organize, organize, and organize. So we're really lucky this morning to have a panel of seasoned organizers and activists and advocates with us from SEIU, from the Sierra Club, from Lane, the LA Alliance for a New Economy, and from the U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce. That's the kind of Chamber of Commerce we want, a green Chamber of Commerce. They're a perfect group to engage in a discussion about how we build the communities we want to create, how we build the economic systems we want to see be successful, and embody our good jobs, green jobs values. What kind of jobs? Green jobs. So let's get started. First, I'm going to move right now to take my seat so I can introduce people and look at them at the same time, and you can clap wildly because these guys all rock. So, first we have, it's alpha order this way. John Barton has been with the Service Employees International Union for 20 years. In fact, we've known each other 21 because you hired me in my first union job in 1991. John currently serves as the Deputy Director of SEIU's Property Services Division. In his current position, he coordinates the janitorial program of the union, including the division's work in upskilling members to create healthier and more energy-efficient buildings. He also has served as the organizing director for the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor and as the executive director for AFSCME Council 36. And very significantly to us all here, John serves on the steering committee, the national steering committee of the Blue-Green Alliance. And so really that steering committee lifts up and executes a lot of our national work. And so I want to give John a strong round of applause. Next, we have Patricia Castellanos. She's the Deputy Director and Director for the Ports Project and the LA Alliance for a New Economy. She joined Lane back in 2006 as co-director of the Clean and Safe Ports campaign, and she's been leading Lane's effort to bring good jobs and clean air to the port trucking industry. Before coming to Lane, she served as the Harbor Area Director for the Office of the Mayor of the City of LA, where she was responsible for coordinating the mayor's initiatives related to the environment, economic development, and goods movement in the harbor. Welcome, Patty. We have Sarah Hodgdon. She's the woo to everyone. She is the conservation director of the Sierra Club. She oversees the organization. We got a lot Sierra Club in the house, huh? She oversees the organization's national campaigns and programs, including Beyond Coal, Beyond Oil, and resilient habitats, as well as the club's outings program in partnership with labor, environmental, and youth organizations. Prior to becoming the conservation director, Sarah Hodgdon served as Sierra Club's director of climate campaign operations and also as their deputy field director. Welcome to Sarah. And we're happy to have with us David Steele, who is the president and the CEO of the U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce, a nationwide organization that empowers businesses to achieve environmental and social sustainability. He's the owner of Smarter Light, an earth-friendly LED company that helps individuals and corporations easily replace their current lighting with the top-of-the-line, next-phase, environmentally friendly LED lighting solutions. He's also the founding board member and CFO of Conscious Humanity, a 501c3 committed to spreading peace and personal empowerment to all people. So as you can see, well, there's one more question before we get started. It's a question for you guys, because we've kind of bonded quite well over a few conference calls as a team here. The questions we'll be asking are questions that we all came up with together, so hopefully they're questions that are relevant and helpful to you all. But I just wanted one more show of hands thing to see how many of you in the last 2 days have met at least 3 people who you feel you want to connect with or follow up with or read what they've written on a blog or whatever in terms of just building our work. 3 people. Raise your hand. That's why we do these conferences. And so I just wanted to, as I was thinking about how much getting to know this group here in the last few weeks better has meant to me, except for John, who I've known since I was a little bitty baby 21 years ago, I wanted to see for the same for you, so that's good. So I'm hoping this is an exchange that benefits us all. So each of you clearly have a very rich and textured background in organizing, campaigning, or advocacy. And from your respective experience, what are some of the examples of the best blue-green collaboration you've experienced? And in describing what that is in terms of your actually day-to-day campaigning experience, it'd be great if you could touch upon why that collaboration worked. So we'll kick it off over here with John. Working? I think so.
So I think, as being on the National Steering Committee, I think there's incredible value in the work that we've been doing nationally and the discussions in Washington, D.C. with the different unions, with Sierra, with NRDC, with Union Concerned Scientists and others. I also think, though, that there is incredible importance to work that we do on the ground together in building alliances in our local areas. I think that that's what really builds within our membership the belief that we all can work together and that there's value in working together. So just one very quick example I want to give where SEIU had a great experience in working with a number of environmental organizations, including the Sierra Club, would be recently in Minneapolis. I work in our Property Services Division for SEIU, which is basically buildings, workers in buildings. We were in our contract negotiations in Minneapolis, about 3,000 janitors there. The local made the decision that it was very important for our members that we start moving into issues around green cleaning and energy efficiency. We had meetings with a number of organizations led by Clean Water Action initially. And by the time that the conversations had reached a peak, we had a room, I remember I flew out there, a room of over 40 union and environmental activists in Minneapolis. What this led to was proposals in our agreement to the employers around mandatory green chemicals and around certain issues around energy efficiency and energy efficiency training. And then what occurred, Sierra Club did amazing work there around starting to tell the story to all of their members in Minneapolis. And by the peak of the campaign, Sierra Club members working in office buildings in downtown Minneapolis were doing delegations and doing emails to property managers in their buildings around their support for the janitors. I remember flying out there and going to a rally and a march where there were almost as many Sierra Club members and other environmental members as there were from our own union. it was really a rainbow of both labor and environmental organizations fighting together. And ultimately, not only did we win a great contract for our members there who do the janitorial work, but also we got the mandatory green chemicals. We got a labor management agreement for a labor management committee with all the top building owners to start discussing energy efficiency and energy efficiency training for janitors in Minneapolis. So that was a great experience, and since that date, Javier Murillo, who's our president of our local there, was invited to be on the board of Sierra Club in Minnesota. So that's really built a relationship on the ground in that state that I think people are going to remember and build off of.
Thanks, John. That's a really great example. Patty, you want to build on that?
Sure. As Deputy Director of Lane, we have a number of great examples of collaborations, blue-green collaborations. Don't Waste LA, where we're trying to transform the whole waste and recycling industry here in LA, as well as Repower LA, where we're trying to take our public utility, transition it to renewable energies, and all of those working with groups like the Sierra Club, NRDC, and local environmental justice groups as well, which I want to make sure are not left out of the conversation here this morning. And in all of those, working with labor partners as well. So with Don't Waste LA, working with the Teamsters, in Repower LA, working with IBEW Local 18. My favorite, of course, is the one that I direct, which is the Coalition for Clean and Safe Ports, where we have been working now in partnership with Sierra Club, NRDC, local environmental justice groups like East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice, Coalition for a Safe Environment. And really what we did was come together 6 years ago, identified a huge problem at the ports of LA and Long Beach, which is the ongoing environmental crisis that existed there with having the largest source of pollution in our backyards. And for me, actually, it's my front yard because I live near the port. Those ports are the largest polluter in the region. Trucking is one of the largest polluters, and here it's not the same with ships. You actually have these trucks that are running through our communities every day, every night now, in fact. And we came together to really address this because the same industry that's creating so much havoc in our air and our communities and impacting our health negatively is also exploiting their drivers, as you've heard Tony Sheldon just speak earlier, and General President from the Teamsters, Jim Hoffa, yesterday, and we had a driver here. It's an industry that has created third world conditions, not just environmentally, but for workers in our ports. And so we came together to address that. And really, we're now 6 years into this campaign, 6 years into the coalition, and I gotta say that for us, really, some of the elements of success have been that we have played to people's strengths. So we come together as a coalition and do not expect that every leader in the coalition contribute the same thing. And I think this really is an equalizing force when you take into account environmental justice groups or community groups that don't have the financial resources that many of the larger groups like Sierra Club, the Teamsters do. But when we had to go in front of harbor commissioners or other agencies and tell of the impacts that this industry was having on their communities, when we had to humanize this problem in large numbers, we love NRDC and they are great in court and in policy in the halls of City Hall, but we were not looking to them to turn out 200 people to a harbor commission meeting. East Yard Communities for Environmental Justice, our local community partners, were there. We're telling the stories, and these were the stories that moved our commissioners, that moved our mayor, that moved our council. And so that's just an example of how we really took the best that every single one of our partners had to offer to create, a comprehensive, strong campaign, and have made it this far. And the other is really, just in terms of elements of success, early on, really setting the agenda together, right? So no one partner came and said, this is exactly what we have to, this is the fight, this is the policy. We all, with our different expertise, developed a comprehensive policy that addressed the jobs issue, that addressed the environmental and community issues, and we agreed that none of us was going to walk away from the table until it was all won. And that's why, even though there's the perception that there's a huge environmental victory already that we've won, we still have environmental partners, environmental justice partners at the table, making sure and fighting for the rights of 10,000 truck drivers at the ports of LA and Long Beach.
Thank you for that. And I think the part about setting the agenda together is really, really powerful and strategic. Thank you. Sarah.
So at Sierra Club, we have a vision that we've been talking about for the last couple days, a vision of a clean and sustainable world. And we want a new energy economy, but we know that part of what stands in the way are the big oil companies and the big coal companies, their disproportionate share of subsidies and their impact on politics. So we've been working to take on big coal and big oil through our Beyond Coal and Beyond Oil campaigns. On the other side of those, though, we're very committed to clean energy solutions and green transportation solutions. And I wanted to talk about a campaign that we've been running, the Beyond Coal campaign up in Washington State. And Seth, one of the organizers on that campaign, is here today. And part of what makes this a really great example, and one that we're really proud of and working to model around the country, is that it was a campaign where we were working to retire a coal plant and bring clean energy into the community in Washington State, but also really came together to think about the 300 workers that were at that plant. So we came to an agreement with the IBEW workers there, with the governor, through the legislature, and lots of other environmental and community groups to close the two boilers there, one in 2020 and one in 2025. And the agreement also brought $30 million of community economic development funds and local energy efficiency projects to the county, and $25 million to the state to spur energy, new energy technology. And so I think what was really important about this campaign is that we had had a commitment at Sierra Club over the last decade to get to know our union allies in the state. And we're able to have a conversation. It was contentious almost up to the end. But we're able to build on those deep relationships that we had had over the last decade to figure out a way that we could really make this work for the community, for the environment, and for the workers. And also thinking about the timing. So putting this on a retirement plan, on a retirement schedule that would allow time for some of the workers to also retire, bringing funds in for job training for some of the other workers, and money for that workforce transition. And then we're really proud to be working here with Lane in Los Angeles. We have Evan and Byron, the whole gang here, doing a great job on Repower, the Repower campaign, and really thinking about after we're moving coal out of the economy, so 39% of Los Angeles' power comes from coal, and it's coming in from out of state. So we want to bring jobs into Los Angeles, and that's why we're really working on an energy efficiency plan that would bring career path jobs to Los Angeles. We're really proud of our partnerships in doing that kind of work that thinks about the whole picture.
And I wanted, just as an add-on, you had a great story last night about why you're rooting for Indiana in March Madness. It has to do with Beyond Coal, so do you want to pass that along?
Oh, this is very fun. I was with my colleague Allison, who I learned as a basketball player in college last night. We just were working at the Indiana University campus, my alma mater, to shut down the campus coal plant and bring clean energy on campus. And so I got to go to school this year. We sponsored a basketball game, and it was really fun to be on the court and see the Sierra Club ads rolling, and they gave me the game ball. So now I'm rooting for Indiana in March Madness.
Indiana. All right. Thank you. Thank you. And for for those of you who are newer to the Blue-Green Alliance in this conference, as Yvette noted, there were a lot of, we were thrilled, there were so many new people, and the Sierra Club and the Steelworkers were the founding partners of Blue-Green Alliance. So when she says the 10 years of working together and having an ethic that looks at the relationship between the environmental policies we pass and the impacts on workers, and also the possibilities of workers when we're growing the clean energy economy. Sierra Club is now a veteran. It's been a long time, so thank you for that. So we're going to kick it to David here for the same question. What works in blue-green and just green-green, because you're from the business sector, but I think I wanted to just say this little bit, that the U.S. Green Chamber is a response to the fact that the U.S. Chamber has been so anti-environmental. We saw in Waxman Markey just start, big, huge, major American corporations like Starbucks or Nike say, we don't want to kill climate legislation, we're going to leave. But when they leave, where do they go? So David kind of had the vision to create a U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce, and maybe you could just do a quick little blurb, because I didn't say it in the intro, of like how many members you have.
Sure. So as far as chambers go, we're a newborn at about 3 years old. I think last year we brought on almost 400 members, and we're about to launch a major new campaign that I'll tell you about later. But the growth across the country has been incredible. When we announced ourselves as the U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce, it got picked up by Time and a bunch of others, and I think I had community leaders in just about every city of the U.S. call and say, we want to be the chapter here, we're all about it, we're excited. So it's been tremendous. It's been tremendous. As I was thinking about the question, it's interesting. I'll take it to a local level. Our regional chamber in San Diego was started 141 years ago, and when Alonzo Horton found downtown San Diego, the challenges that he had were three. How can we get clean water? How can we develop transportation, the railroad? And how can we open the harbor for commerce? And it's interesting that 141 years later, we're working on transportation, commerce, and water is a big issue for us. So we're still working on those issues. We've gotten together in our community with E2 to form...
Just say real quick who E2 is.
It's a national environmental organization that gets community leaders in different cities and areas together to tackle the longer range problems. So one of the things we're working on in San Diego is water. As we know here in California, it's one of our biggest challenges going forward years ahead. And it's been a great a collaboration, and they have a big influence here and across the whole country and in Washington. And as I was thinking about this question, I wanted to think of a really great success. And recently, we had a company from Texas that actually Daimler Mercedes that formed an alliance with the city of San Diego and SDG&E, and we were able to bring 300 electric vehicles into downtown San Diego that anybody can use. You get a free membership card, and you could just look on your iPhone, see wherever there's a car, get in a car and drive. You just pay by the minute. You can leave it wherever you want. The city actually changed the rules so you don't have to pay for parking anywhere in the city. You can just get in, drive, and leave it. Amazing program. So we have 300 little cars driving all around. Really great program.
Thank you. That's amazing. I mean, a lot of cities have those with bikes too, so, and smart car and car sharing, and so thanks for sharing that example. We're going to kind of flip the question a little bit, because while there's all these great collaborations, there's also issues we have to overcome in collaboration. And I thought Manuel Pastor from USC, who was on the panel yesterday, said it really well when he said, to build power, political power for this vision and agenda we have, we're not just rounding up the usual suspects. We have to really, concertedly and strategically round up unlikely suspects. And this was something he said where I was like, wow, like an aha moment a little bit, because sometimes when we do that, we obviously run into conflict. But he said, let's set some ground rules here. Let's have principled conflict. We know we're not going to agree on everything, but what is the sort of consent, what's it called, the Venn diagram? You know, what is the part we can agree on? And let's assume we won't agree, but how do we conduct ourselves when we don't agree? If we want to keep our partnership strong, if we want to build and deepen our trust. And so with that sort of setup, I know each of you in your many years of organizing have experiences where you've encountered conflict, but also if you could add, what are sort of how did you overcome it, and what are some of the prescriptions, like understanding principled conflict, that help you get to the next level of thinking about how to be stronger together? And we'll just do the same rotation here. John?
So, Lisa, I just want to touch quickly on two things. One is kind of, when I tell the story, it's kind of interesting to people, but for the people that we represent, the people who clean all these buildings all over, these thousands and thousands of low-wage immigrant workers, it may come as a surprise to people that sometimes when there are mandates that get passed down, good stuff around green cleaning, around energy efficiency, around recycling, that there are then people that need to actually do that work. And so an interesting story would be when green cleaning started sweeping the industry a number of years ago in all these office buildings, and our members need to start doing that. And for those of you that may use green chemicals in your house, or at least did a number of years ago, you might know that there's just a little bit more work that needs to happen. So when you're actually cleaning, you know, hundreds of square feet a night, and you're doing multiple bathrooms, this actually we got pushback from a lot of our members around this, because the cleaning was harder. Recycling, imagine when you're dumping trash in offices all over a building, and suddenly you're asked to now do an additional trash can, you know, that you have to then sort. So some of these mandates that are good for the environment, that environmental organizations have supported, actually have created pushback from our members who we actually need to have be involved in this process. I strongly believe that if we're going to build a movement, we need to have the membership of our organizations, their hearts and their minds supporting this environmental change. We need to, as we say, good jobs, and also figure out how, as these changes occur, they have buy-in, and that that if there is difficulty, that comes with those changes, that those difficulties are addressed in the workplace. I don't know if Olga Miranda's in the room. She was here yesterday, but Olga's the president of our local in San Francisco. There they did it right. The recycling ordinance, SCIU, the Teamsters, Gaia, a whole variety of environmental organizations with the mayor's office passed an incredible recycling ordinance, and it's now been that because it's so far-reaching, we are now picking up new members. We have what's called sorters, a whole new classification. There's a new wage rate. They're going to get training, and there's not an additional burden that's being put on the janitors in San Francisco. And we're now reaching some of the highest recycling levels I think that city's ever seen.
Yes,
so that's where it's done right on the front end. So we just need to be careful about that. The one other thing that I wanted to touch on real quickly is on the larger picture around issues around coal, around issues around Keystone, around many of these issues, and what has been called in the world community a just transition, or how do we figure out how to do transition correctly for the workers and members who are involved, so that they don't just lose their jobs, but they actually get retraining, they get put into other comparable jobs. That's obviously been a big area of contention, and I think that even in the BGA we've had some discussion and disagreements around how aggressive we are around supporting science-based approaches to climate change, and adopting science-based models. And I think that through Initially, I don't think there was agreement, and this was a very contentious issue within the BGA. I think it got to a point just this year in conversations between a number of the unions and then with the environmental organizations, where we were able to actually say that we do support science-based emission reductions with strong just transition language. And then we brought that agreement then to the environmental organizations. And one of the issues raised by them was, because they felt we weren't going quite as far as they would like to go, was that they simply said, we would like to make sure that this doesn't bind our hands. We all support this position. It's going to the State Department, it's going to Durban, blah, 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 blah. But we want to make sure that if we as individual organizations want to go further, we can do that. And everybody agreed. And I thought that that was, after a number of years of contentious relationships around this question, that was an approach where we finally opened up the door to real conversation. We heard each other. We heard each other's concerns. We were able to put together a document, yet we didn't bind each other to that document. So that was, I think, a success that came out of an area where there was a lot of challenge.
And so when you guys went to the climate talks, it was in Cancun, right? You were in agreement?
No, we were not in agreement in Cancun. In Durban is where.
Oh, in Durban, this past December. Yeah, so the
Yeah.
climate talks, there was a unified position
Yep.
that had workers factored into the equation in terms of just transition, if I'm getting this right, and also adhered to science-based demands on climate targets, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so that's pretty great, guys. Yay, good job. And I just want to point out that it's been said by, I think, everyone in a certain way, just again, underscoring the importance of, at the design level, at the conception level, workers together with enviros to jointly develop the strategy. Then you don't end up with a worker having 3 extra hours of work in their shift that's already tight to do the recycling. It's like, no, and then we get to believe the workers want to do the work, right? They want to do the recycling, they want to do the green, but it's just got to fit into like a real shift. And so that's a really helpful sort of day-to-day example. And San Francisco, as you mentioned, has a 78% recycling and recovery rate that's the highest in the country, and it was done and won with this kind of collaboration. So that's inspiring. Patty.
Sure. Actually did want to raise one challenge similar to what John raised with regard to the mandates that are good and necessary environmental mandates here from the state. And I think in many cases the agencies charged with implementing those mandates not being set up for the complex types of solutions that we want to propose. So I know one thing that we encountered just in coming forward as a blue-green alliance and all the different variations of that blue and green within that coalition, as we were proposing and developing a comprehensive policy that try to both clean up environmentally the port trucking industry, but at the same time create good jobs. As we were approaching, even, I got to say, initially, the Port of LA and the City of LA, when we came together, they weren't quite sure what to do with us. Like, well, why is NRDC in the room with you at this meeting? So they were a little confused by what it was that we were trying to do, and it was a little unusual for us here in LA for the Teamsters to walk into a room with a policymaker, with NRDC and a community person, and so, I think in terms of what we were trying to do, which was not just turn over the fleet of dirty trucks at the port, but also improve dramatically the working conditions for the thousands of port truck drivers that were driving those trucks. There wasn't always an easy policy fix. I mean, here it did require bold leadership on the part of our mayor to agree to adopt a policy or have the port adopt a policy that didn't just look at the trucks and didn't just say we're going to put money into making sure that we have nothing but 2007 better trucks at our ports, but also said there are going to be standards for the companies in terms of these workers. Like, you will no longer be able to misclassify them as independent contractors, and by doing that, there was already a higher bar for this industry. There was accountability that didn't exist before. There were better labor standards for the workers. There were high, environmental standards. And with that, a recognition that the industry, not low-paid workers, needed to pay for these trucks. And getting back to the earlier point that John made, when we were approaching agencies like CARB and everywhere from EPA down, to say, you gotta be thoughtful about the monies that you're putting into fleet replacement for port trucking. You can't just, give money, whether it be subsidies or loans, to industry players that are not gonna be responsible employers. And that has been a challenge every step of the way. And so, and some very directly say, like, our mandate is not to address the labor issues, our mandate is to address the environmental issues. And so our cutting edge solutions and the bold leadership and the ability to address problems comprehensively hasn't quite flowed all the way up through every level of the agency. So that's certainly been a challenge for us on the policy level. I mean, maybe to address a little bit the challenge in collaborations and coalitions, I gotta say for us, not that it was a smooth ride all the way, but here in Los Angeles, there have been groups that have been at this for many, many years and decades. And so I think by the time that we put our coalition together, a lot of the real hard work had already been done by, groups like Agenda Scope, Lane, the LA County Federation of Labor, NRDC, EJ, and environmental groups working out their differences as well. And so there was a bit more experience in working together. I think our campaign was maybe one of the, not the first, but one of the first where we actually entered into battle together. And I think that went really far in laying the foundation for future fights. I think the challenge for us is always that we all have very wide agendas. Everyone is working on 10,000 things at once, and so trying to agree on every issue affecting this huge city is always a challenge. But I think there's a foundation for principled dialogue and discussion already.
And Patty, I really appreciated what you said about sometimes agencies not knowing what to do when we come together. The flip side is, I think, because of the groundbreaking work you guys have done here, because of the Blue-Green Alliance, and not just us, literally, the Blue-Green Alliance's institution, but Blue-Green Alliances, I'm finding that sometimes you go to these agencies with the NRDC and with the union, or with Sierra Club and a union, and our allies are the Javier Becerra, Congressman Becerra type of electeds. There's not enough of them, but there's a few. They're so happy, because they can then fully be strong in the values of EJ, and the values of civil rights, and the values of labor and strong livelihoods for workers. And so the better we are, the better they can be. And so thanks for your guys' leadership there. So Sarah, what are some of your experiences, challenges, and how have you overcome them? What's your vision for overcoming some of the hard parts?
Well, I want to start by building on something you were saying, Lisa, which is that when Sierra Club members and communication workers have been sitting down together and looking for shared purpose in Virginia and Texas and other states where we're working together, we spent a lot of time up front just getting to know each other. And what we found is that we have so much more that we agree on than we disagree. And I think that's true across the board and really important for us to remember. I think it's easier for us to find the places where we agree when we're looking at the solutions. So like the work that we did getting ready for Durban, where we're putting together a whole package. Or when we're thinking about like the work we're doing here with Lane on the Repower, thinking about bringing in solutions to a community. But for us, and what's very important to the Sierra Club space, and what's strategic for us in thinking about bringing around clean energy is opposing some of the bad energy projects across the country. And I think it's important when there are areas where we will disagree, and we found this in our Beyond Oil and our Beyond Coal campaigns over the last year, that we're really in discussions with our allies, knowing that there will be times where we disagree, but trying to work toward no surprises, trying to be ahead of the curve and sharing what's coming, looking for ways that we can talk about the work that we're doing in a way that softens around the edges and works for everybody. So I think that tension is not a bad thing. It can lead to innovation, and that there will be lots of opportunities for us to work together and then share our experiences.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. David? Oh yeah, let's clap for Sarah. And David, challenges, how have you overcome them? What's your vision for getting around the hard parts?
So for us, a U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce, if we're going to facilitate change, it's about education and it's about legislation. And so we're working hard to position ourselves on both fronts. The best example I have right away would be the California climate legislation. And back in November when Prop 23 came out, and it effectively would have crippled AB 32, or California's climate legislation, it was a really good example of how all of us got together, Sierra Club, everybody got together and just said, there's a real issue. We don't have the same amount of money, we don't have the resources, but we really need to get the word out from every front, because this is going to cost jobs, and this is a really bad thing. So I know in our communities, we were effective at getting everybody together and going, okay, we are going to get an affirmation of no from every city in San Diego County, period. And so we went to the easiest ones first and spoke to their city councils, and as they started, affirming a no, we went to each and every other one, and it was effective. It was a good program, and there was lessons to learn from it are to start early, to get everybody together as soon as you can, to really leverage our social networks. Our network is huge, and by combining it with everybody else's, we were at least effective on that for now. And so, it turned out to be a good thing. But it was a scary proposition, And there's been others like PACE and others that we haven't had the success with.
Right.
But that was an example of everybody, kind of coming together and, doing what we needed to do to get the misinformation corrected.
Right. And to underscore the point that we were just making earlier, if you think you're powerful when labor and environment are together, we're super powerful, especially in terms of growing the clean energy economy, when labor, enviros, and clean energy businesses and renewable businesses are together. That is a combination that's very, very hard to thwart, and it's also hard for those who oppose our vision. We know there's people who oppose our vision. We know there's, grown-ups running for president right now who say that climate change isn't real. And my hope is 4 years from now that would be impossible to see happen. And a key factor in realizing that vision is business to really step up, because the side that opposes us always says it's jobs versus environment. Climate change isn't happening. But when you've got businesses saying this is actually good for our bottom line, it's good for our well-being, it's good for the sort of overall, I think Denise Fairchild was talking about, or Tom Steyer too, what do they call it, full cost accounting. You've got businesses making those arguments, and it's really hard for even our opponents to oppose, or at least harder. So thanks for your leadership there, David. So we're close to needing to wrap up, so we're going to collapse our third and fourth question, and then we're going to try to make our answers a little shorter so we can make sure that we get... No, your answers are great, but we can talk to you. We've already had 3 conference calls. We'll probably have one tomorrow just to keep this going. But just so that we can make it on time to the wonderful workshops we've got scheduled. So what we're trying to do now is go to the sort of 30,000-foot level. We talked about our individual, our real-life organizing experiences as the kind of constituencies each of the 4 of you works within. But we're a progressive social movement, and we're really stronger together when we act as a progressive social movement. And there's social forces out there, super PACs, Citizens United, Wisconsin, efforts to undermine the very fabric of the labor movement, folks who don't want to regulate greenhouse gases and who are climate deniers and such. We've got attacks on immigrants' rights, SB 1070 in Arizona, and efforts like that around the whole country that are violating civil rights, that are promoting racial profiling. So it's a challenging political environment. So in light of that reality, the nice flip side, we have Occupy. I think we should give a round of applause to Occupy. We've got the courageous youth fighting these horrible anti-immigrant attacks, and the dreamers. So we've got the bad, we got the good, and that's how life always is, as Congressman Becerra had said. But the question for you then is, when you do your cross-cutting thinking about not only how do I operate in my sphere of labor and environment, civil rights, but how do I do that really well so that we can take on some of the big forces against us, like Citizens United? So just to pitch it to you guys, any aspect of that big, huge array of stuff just thrown out, what's your approach, John? I know you've got a great one in SEIU for doing that power-building work writ large.
So look, we have to win. We got to win this election, and not just win as an election, but win this election with a mandate. And that's what SEIU is focused on, winning with a mandate for the 99%. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it in the cities, in the states, and nationally. We're going to do it through building alliances. Here in Los Angeles, we have now what's called the 99% table. Students, immigrant rights, labor, community organizations, all working together. We're planning now actions all over the country which are going to profile the interests of the 99% against the interests of the 1%. We have May 1st, LA, Chicago, New York. New York, they have a table of 120 people now planning. We're going to be doing major marches. April 17th, Tax Day. We're going to be doing actions all over the country on corporations that are taking advantage of tax codes. And then into the spring, we, along with allies across the United States, are doing what's called Shareholder Spring. The plan is to take over shareholder meetings all over the country, because as you know, most companies do their meetings in the spring. We're training literally tens of thousands of activists who are going to take part in these actions at shareholder meetings nationally. And in those meetings, we're demanding interests of the 99%. And then we're going to continue actions and focus on this presidential, Senate, and House races where we're going to win, but we're going to win this time with a clear mandate that once elected, these officials need to respond to the interests of 99%.
And if people want to get involved, like if someone's not at the table yet but they want to be, is there social media, online, can people engage?
Absolutely. I don't quite remember what that website is right now. But if there's anybody here or in other states, we'd love to hear from you. You could talk to me, and we can hook you up with who's doing the work in the different states.
Great. Thank you. Patty?
This has already been repeated, and it just struck me. I think the answer is what Madeline Janis, our former executive director, said yesterday, which is organize, organize, organize. I think that should be our mantra and our answer every time this question comes up. And really, I think it is about doing a lot of the same of what we're doing now and more in cities, in states, at the national level, as John said. I know for us here in LA, Lane has a number of campaigns across a number of industries, from the ports to the recycling centers to our Department of Water and Power, hotel, the tourism industry, really targeting those industries that are growing, where there are the most workers. These are workers that live in our communities, and really bringing that together for us as our proposal, our blueprint for an economic recovery here in LA, one of the largest cities in the country, and really pushing, I think, which we all need to do, that the blueprint for an economic recovery, especially in these times coming out of a recession, where it's so easy, and we've all seen this, to begin to divorce the issues of jobs and the environment and health and community, for us to continue to hold on and grab on and hold those together, not let them come apart. So for us, our blueprint for an economic recovery includes healthy communities, includes a clean environment, includes, workers making a living wage, having the right to form their union, and not being harassed for trying to do so. And acknowledging for us also, like, there is a role for government to play in all of this. We're living in a period, Yvette just mentioned earlier, there have been severe budget cuts in LAUSD, 1,800 teachers soon to be laid off, the same with city employees, and so there's an attack on our public sector. It's certainly for us important because, that can affect our success on our Repower LA, and so really stressing that there's a role for government to play, there is a role for public sector unions and public sector employees to play as well, and that this is part of the solution, and we can't allow for these attacks to continue. And so really pushing, staying strong, coming together, and organize, organize, organize.
Adelante, thank you. I've been watching Lane for 18 years, and they really are great at bringing people together where we are social movements framing the terms of debate. They're doing it with their economic blueprint. They're going to do it in the mayor's race because Antonio's terming out. We'll have a new mayor in LA. So thank you for that. Sarah?
I think there's a lot of opportunity for all of us to come together in the wake of Citizens United and take on the influence and power of the money of the 1% in politics. And at Sierra Club, we're going to be doing that in a big way, really looking at oil money in politics. We're also gearing up to support our justice and our youth allies across the country, their right to vote. There are those that are trying to make it harder for them to vote. And so we're really going to be supporting that effort too.
And do you want to just quickly say anything about your social media? Because we don't have time to talk about it now, but I mean, I don't know how many people saw the Coney 2012 Invisible Children? YouTube, anyone see that? 80 million hits in 4 days last week, the most, in internet history, the most widely watched video. And I'll just say, I know from getting to meet a lot of Sierra Club leaders how cutting edge you guys are dealing with social media, and that's a really important space we need to always remember as organizers. And John, so make sure you find that video and post it to SEIU's website or the website so we can all get involved in the cutting edge work of the SEIU's leading. David?
Yeah, so we took a look at our path and our plan, and one of our goals is to be in Washington with our office there for advocacy in 2012. And so we are in the early phases of a new campaign called Cities for Change, and we're focusing in 100 cities and bringing on 1,000 new member companies in 100 cities, so 100,000 new members. And one of the ways that we're doing that is we took a look at membership, and for a lot of companies it's a big investment, $500 to $5,000 a year. And so we've lowered the cost of membership to $99 and
awesome.
Created an incredible directory. So we just wanted to take the money out of the equation and really engage the communities all across the country. Incredibly excited about it. Along with it, we're bringing out a certification program that works across manufacturing, service industry, retail, and we've been working on it as long as the chamber's been around, and it will give organizations the ability to look and see how sustainable they are, and then have a gaming and point system in that tells them how to get to the next level. And that's all going to be included in there. And really what it does is it helps us to leverage and have more of an impact in all of these different communities so that we can do more, we can hold more local events, and we can organize, and really collaborate a lot better. So I'm the most blessed person. It's really fun. We're in crazy startup launch mode for this program right now, but if you want to check it out, I know ours. It's usgreenchamber.com.
usgreenchamber.com.
But check it out, and if there's any way we can help any of you or any of your organizations, we'd love to have a chance to do it.
And I want to just thank David, too, because they reached out to us and wanted to be part of this. And in workshops yesterday, there were a number of people from the U.S. Green Chamber here. It's a really important political link to make. And I don't know, Susan Frank, are you out there? Here, over there. She was amazingly critical in the No on 23 fight by pulling together, she's part of the Better World group, but by pulling together the California Green Business Alliance, about 700 small businesses where there's also no barrier to entry in terms of a high price line, where people could just get together, be part of that alliance to grow the green economy in our state. Again, a really strategic ally. So I just want to, you used the word blessed, and I just want to say I feel blessed and just happy to be part of this movement together with all of you and to get to work with day in and day out talented, committed to the core leaders like the ones on stage. So thank you very much to John, Patty, Sarah, and David.